Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Mel Nostalgic Runner. We are back for another episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and this is season 6 and episode 9, and it's called Unicorn Overboard. Before we get into this episode, sorry for the delay of the episode. Hopefully this is better as far as like my sound because I have my normal mic again. But I am liking how I'm doing I like the view a lot more because I'm actually filming at night, guys. So clearly I've been able to get some of the video figured out as far as like the lighting's concerned. I basically have to use, in this room, I found out I literally have to use both of my lights. I can't just use the one. I probably could just get away with using the one I'm using right now. But the one that I was using before, that's more or less at this point, I converted to makeup light because it doesn't really work. Clearly it's not really working well when it comes to rooms that are not as bright. And the actual natural, like the light fixture in this room just isn't very bright, just in general. Which is not a big deal because you already know I just purchased, and so I'm probably going to be changing this light fixture in the future. I'm actually thinking about putting a fan in this room, even though realistically it doesn't, like, it's a very small room. So right now it's actually kind of chilly in this room, but in the summer it does get a little warm. So I don't know. I got to kind of figure that out. But anyway, that's not why you're here. Y'all here for me to review The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And what I will say, this episode is just okay to me. Like, I feel like this is one of the first filler episodes that they had. Pretty much all season long, they have been full throttle, you know. But like, I think their version of the filler episode, in most cases, would be like an actual episode for other housewives. But for them, to me, this was a filler episode, if that makes any sense. So I would probably rate this a 7 out of 10 if I was going to rate it. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into the review. We actually pick up where we left off. It's day 3, the last day on the yacht. And some of the ladies are attending morning yoga. And we have Angie, Heather, Brittany, and Whitney. They're doing the yoga. While they're doing it at the beginning, Brittany isn't there right away. Brittany does join them eventually. But Heather is pretty much thirsting over Captain Jason. And side note, did y'all see? I don't really watch what happens live. I don't really watch that, but I saw a clip where Heather and Captain Jason, they do not agree on if they hooked up or not. And I'm not really shocked by that. What do y'all think? Put in the comments, do you believe Captain Jason or do you believe Heather on if they actually hooked up or not? Now, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think they messed around, like they made out or whatever. I don't think it went very far. But I think from like Heather's standpoint, she considers that messing around. But I think from like Captain Jason's standpoint, that's just fun. And I get that because I'm kind of the same way to a certain degree. Like, some people take a lot of those things more serious than others. Like, for me, I'm about to spill a little bit of my tea, but not that I haven't spilled this before, but like making out with someone, probably now it's more of a big deal for me because I just don't do that like that anymore. But I would say 5 years ago or further back, that wasn't a big deal. I'm like, that's like saying hi. It's like, whatever. It's like shaking someone's hand. What's the difference? Yeah, but anyway. But Brittany does end up joining them. And Heather, while they're doing yoga, is trying to like basically ask how Brittany's doing, which is weird because they literally are actually doing yoga. And Captain Jason's the one who's leading the yoga. And everyone else, basically Whitney and Angie, they're actually doing yoga. Like, they're not trying to do a scene. They're actually trying to do the morning yoga. While Heather, she's kind of halfway doing it, but really trying to get the tea on how Brittany's feeling. Brittany is just talking about how she's just kind of over how Meredith treats her because she thinks that basically others are allowed to do things. Others are allowed to do the things that she just did, but she's not. Like there is she basically gets treated different than all the other women because, and honestly, is she wrong? No, I don't think she's wrong. I actually agree with Brittany on this standpoint. I actually felt bad for Brittany at the end of this whole entire episode. I'm starting to feel bad for her last episode, but this episode was really, 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 really bad. But anyway, so while this is happening, we see that Meredith is complaining to Lisa about Brittany. And I want you to pay attention to this because I paid extra attention to it because actually this will come up again as far as how you believe things that occurred. So Meredith is complaining about Brittany the whole entire time to Lisa while they're in their room. And Lisa is chiming in, like agreeing with her basically. Not like full throttle agreeing, but she is chiming in and agreeing when Lisa is supposed to be Brittany's friend. She's supposed to be neutral at this, but she is clearly, you know, more Meredith's friend than Brittany's. And which is actually, if you look at this, is pretty hurtful because Brittany hasn't done anything to Lisa at this point. Like nothing. Like at all. So seeing this, it kind of looks away. Now at this point, Lisa only chimed in here and there, but like she still chimed in pretty much in agreement with Meredith. Keep that in your mind when we see this scene. And then we go back to the other ladies doing the yoga. And like Brittany's still trying to talk about how things are going. And Heather is still trying to ask more questions. And Whitney shushes him like, dude, we're actually trying to do yoga right now. And I would have done the same thing. So that would have gotten on my nerves. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, can we at least have one moment where we're not doing the scene? Like, they could have put a pin in that and had another scene where they could have talked that over. But anyway, that's kind of what happens here. And then a little bit later on in the morning before breakfast with the whole entire group, we see that Meredith is in her room. Not sure where Lisa's at. But Bronwyn does actually come and visit her. And she brings the unicorn. The unicorn that Jared gifted. Like, Brittany was like, good night, baby. You are loved. I kind of malfunctioned right there because that is cringe. I hope no man or woman or whoever I end up being with ever gives me a gift like that. I will be totally freaked out. Just saying. But anyway, so Meredith's like, I don't really want this. You know, she was kind of not really okay with it at first because the way it was presented was like, this is yours. And she's like, I don't really want that. That's weird. But then Bronwyn, Double Horns here, was like, I basically brought this to you as a sacrifice. Which, I will say this episode, we'll get into a little bit later on. But Bronwyn, I need to get on you. I've been letting it go for the past couple of episodes, but now I'm kind of getting annoyed with Bronwyn when it comes to how she treats Brittany because I think it's kind of messed up. Even though I think part of it is like for some of us, I'll speak for me. I don't think I really paid as much attention to how she was treating, or really how any of the girls were treating Brittany for the most part, because I don't like Brittany for the sake of how bad that she's basically a bad mom. I don't like that. So, but just because someone is a bad mom should not equate it being okay with you basically bullying them. And I think it's hard to really call that out when a person's character is at question. You know what I mean? And so it was one of those lines where you're just like, oh, but Mary says it later on in the episode, and I was like, okay, that makes sense now. Like, Mary kind of broke it down for me to understand, like, oh yeah, this isn't really okay. But anyway, I feel bad that it took that far for me to get to that point, but I'm just telling the truth and being honest. But anyway, so Bronwyn does bring this thing, and Meredith was like, yeah, we should throw it overboard. So it was Bronwyn said sacrifice, but was it Bronwyn's idea all the way? No. Keep that in mind. Also, there's a pattern here. there's definitely a pattern here. Okay. And so they were like, well, if we're going to do this, we need to go in disguise. And so they basically go in disguise. We see that Meredith is a pink shark while Bronwyn's a lobster. They go up to the top of the deck, and they try to throw, like, they realize how windy it was. They're like, they look like they're about to fly over along with it, but they do end up throwing this toy overboard. Now, let me break this down. This would have been cute and funny if they had not been consistently picking on Brittany constantly throughout this whole entire time. This is where the problem lies. They have been consistently picking and doing these things with Brittany this whole entire time. And also, too, the two people who do this are the people who've been picking on her the most. So that's where it becomes very problematic. And, like, the line keeps moving as far as how they're treating her. And I feel like if Brittany's character wasn't in question, this would be a no-brainer. We'd be like, this is really messed up. This is not okay. But for me, I'll be honest with you, I had a hard time really until this episode kind of being like, oh my gosh, this isn't really okay because of her character. Because I have a very, very low tolerance for horrible parents. Like, I'm not okay with that. Like, call it, it's not my immediate family. My parents are great. They're solid. But I have other family members in my family who have not been the best of parents. And they're not really, for whatever reason. And so it is a trigger for me seeing someone on television being so blatant about them not being a good parent. And so it's hard to compartmentalize, like, okay, this is true about this person, but they still don't deserve this treatment over here. Or at least if you're going to do the treatment, state the real reason why you're doing that and not the petty reason. That's kind of where I'm coming from here. But anyway, let's move on. I'm hoping this review won't be long, but you already know whenever I say that it ends up being long, but we're going to try to wrap it up because this really was a filler episode. So then fast forward, we're at breakfast time. Everyone's there. And it's really quiet. It's really awkward. Side note, I do have a question about this, and I'm wondering, did anyone notice this? Did anyone notice that Brittany had a couple bruises or whatever on her? Does anyone know where that came from? Was that from her falling? Because she did kind of like head plant in the sand when she did that contest. Was that bruises from that? Put in the comments if you know why. But like, I noticed that and no one ever mentioned it. And it didn't get mentioned in the episode, but I just was looking at that and it was like very obvious that she has some bruises there. And I noticed no one even asked about it. But anyway, so Whitney breaks the ice and asks Meredith how she's doing. And she's like, yeah, my toe hurts. She's like, but I'll survive. She's complaining about her toe that she mentioned to like Heather before the trip. And it's just her stubbing the toe. Like, I don't think she even broke her toe. And even if she did, it's not that serious. You know what I mean? Like, if she's able to walk around and have stilettos on, she didn't break her toe. So it's like, girl, what? Okay. And so basically, while she's talking to her, she's basically been, she already starts her rant about Brittany is if Brittany's not there. Pay attention to that. Okay. So she's like, yeah, I'm not doing, I'm outside of this, I'm being a good person and I'm ignoring all the bad people in this world. And she's literally talking about Brittany. And Brittany's like, if you have a problem with me, say it to my face. Because at this point, Brittany and Meredith are sitting right next to each other because Brittany decides to sit next to Meredith. So I will say this, Brittany girl, with love, the way you were treated here in this episode was messed up, but you were not innocent. And I think that is the thing I will notice in this episode. It was kind of missed. Lisa called it out, but Lisa's not the right person to be calling it out. And based on everyone's accounts of what happened after the fact, that's not the same issue as what's happening here. So in this particular scene, and that's all I'm speaking for, Brittany was not innocent here. She was just putting gasoline on the fire. She was just constantly doing it. To the point where Bronwyn was literally trying to get her to stop. She's like, stop. Like, you're making it worse. And Meredith literally flies off the handle yet again. And before she flies off the handle completely on Brittany, she's like, Whitney, I actually have an issue with you. And she actually said this to Lisa earlier on when she was talking with Lisa, basically complaining to Lisa the whole entire time. She was like, I have a problem that Whitney was there, talking to Brittany about this rumor, but didn't do anything about it. Basically didn't, say, hey, this isn't cool, yada, yada, yada. Whitney completely right away, and then Brittany the whole entire time while she's talking to Whitney, Brittany's like, your real problems with me. Your real problems with me. Basically egging Meredith on. And Meredith's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Whitney. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, she's done talking to Brittany. And Whitney basically explains her case. And she's like, okay, so you basically were trying to be neutral. And Brittany's like, yes, I was basically trying to be neutral. I didn't want really any parts of it. And I was just trying to be neutral. I don't want to be on this side or this side. I was being neutral. And Meredith pretty much lets what happens with Whitney go right away. And then Meredith and Whitney start really, really going at it. And Brittany's like, what bothers me though is that you guys are allowed to do the things you do, but I'm not allowed to do it. That's really, really messed up. And Brittany, you went all the way to the jugular talking about her marriage. And really, yeah, some of the other women do that on this show, but they're not in a good place right after it happens. And I think that's the part that Brittany, for whatever reason, is missing. And Meredith doesn't play when it comes to her marriages. Like, I think I think Lisa did that to Meredith that one season, and they didn't talk for the whole entire rest of the season. Like, they were not cool for like 2 seasons before they got back to being okay. And it's like Brittany doesn't, I don't know if she's not understanding that or what, but like, so Bronwyn's like trying to explain to her, like, girl, stop it. And then even earlier on, Heather, when they were doing the yoga, she's like, yeah, I don't know how you thought that was going to go over well, you bringing that up, but it was going to be one of those things that was never going to go over well, kind of stating the obvious. And Meredith flies off the handle to a whole entire point where she basically says she's done with her, she won't be talking to her anymore, and she won't be talking to anyone that talks to her anymore. She basically gives the whole entire group an ultimatum. And it's like, Meredith. And so you're already seeing Meredith is already taking it too far. She took it too far really the night before. Like, her going back and forth with Brittany has already went too far. And now it's much worse. Because she basically gave the whole entire group an ultimatum. And the ladies are all just looking at her like, girl, what? That's not okay. And Heather in her confessional was like, that's not okay. She's like, and it's really hypocritical, kind of messed up of you, Meredith, where you were able to forgive Lisa so quickly, based off of all the bad things that she said to you, and she did much worse to you than what Brittany just did, but you're going to then not be cool with Brittany. And it also makes me look back at earlier on the episodes when, whenever Brittany was saying Jared, them throwing water at her, like on her. With Whitney, it definitely came off like a joke. With Meredith, based off of her vitriol for her, it's given she's never liked Brittany, and she did that. She was doing that to be malicious and not really and be a mean girl. And that's the thing that's messed up, And I guess when I was watching this the first couple episodes, I guess I didn't pick up on it because of the fact that Brittany is, I think, part of the thing that makes it interesting, I guess, and not really interesting, but like hard to pick up on, is that Brittany takes all this with good stride. But just because she takes it with good stride doesn't mean she doesn't feel a certain way about things. I know if it was me, it would never be me. But like, let's just be so clear. None of this would ever be me. Like, you couldn't just pour water on me and it'll be okay. But again, I think my bias and not really catching up on it is the character issue with her. And in this polarizing world we're in today, we see this type of thing all the time, and you kind of have to take a step back sometimes, and you're like, am I being unfair to this person, even though their character is questionable, but they're getting treated a certain way that's not related to that? Housewives is interesting like that. It makes you think those type of things. And so this episode, even though it was very much a filler, I was thinking a lot about my behavior when you deal with someone who has questionable character. Because their character may not be, and especially when it's questionable character where it really is just their own business of their character being questionable, but when it comes to how they show up outside with others, it's not that. It's confusing, right? Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Okay. And so basically now we are docked and the ladies and the crew say goodbye. It was kind of cute because they're just like, y'all were fun, but y'all were chaotic. Captain Jason basically says that I love y'all all individually, but together it's like a hurricane in a good way, but like it was a lot. And then right before they were about to just leave, I think it was Daisy. She was like, hey. She has the unicorn. So she retrieved the unicorn from being overboard and gave it to Brittany because Brittany couldn't find it. So Brittany was like, where is my unicorn? Like, where is it at? And then she sees like, oh my gosh, it's wet. Why is it wet? And she explains like it was overboard. And so then immediately she's asking, who threw this overboard? And all the ladies are most of the ladies are saying, no, I have no idea, because they don't know. The only people that know are the two people who did it. And Bronwyn immediately fesses up to it, and she has a look of remorse. But Bronwyn, this is where I gotta tuck at you. I really looking back, I did not really love your I don't understand why you always do what you do when it comes to Brittany. If you don't care for her, why do you always try to pretend to be friends with her just to throw her under the bus? That's two-faced to me, and it's freaking weak. And it's giving Mean Girls. So I'm hoping moving forward, after all this has happened, you stop doing that. Because it's really, really immature and quite annoying. And really not okay. And other than that, Bronwyn to me has been doing a great job this season, but my issue with Bronwyn has always been how she's treated Brittany. And the thing is, I guess in general, I would understand how she would treat Brittany that way if it was really about how Brittany is not a great mom. If that was truly the reason, and she put it out there on the floor and wasn't being fake about it and just says, I don't like you and keep it cute, I think I would respect it more. Basically how Mary is. Mary has made it clear she don't mess with Brittany, but she also doesn't try to pick at her. She doesn't do any, she's basically a grown woman about it, if that makes sense. Like, you know, I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to interact with you. I'll be cordial towards you, but as far as like anything else outside of that, that will never happen. And I just, Bronwyn, like, yeah. And I get what it is. It's a little bit of that Housewives hazing type situation. And to me, that's not cute. It's not okay. But anyway, she fesses up to it and she kind of backpedals a little bit because she realized, oh, she messed up. Because Brittany is genuinely hurt by what happened. Meredith doesn't care. She's like, yeah, I did it. I don't care. And then she immediately is like, well, it was actually Bronwyn's idea, but okay. And Meredith, girl, it was both y'all ideas. And this is a pattern that I'm noticing with Meredith. And like, it's always been a pattern of hers, but this episode was really bad. Meredith and Lisa are friends and really, really good friends for, there's definitely a reason why they're really, really good friends. That accountability thing, they haven't seen her. They don't know who she is. They do not know her. They do not know that girl that's called accountability. They don't know her. Anyway, so then Brittany is pissed. And then fast forward, this is where we don't see any of this, but we hear about Meredith loses it at the airport. And then she continues to lose it on the flight all the way back. And she's basically talking mad-ish about Brittany really, really loudly. She shook Brittany's like chair. She spilled wine on her like she was being belligerent. And the thing is, we overheard this news about Meredith getting suspended or whatever. We heard rumors about this, if you follow like Bravo News, about some incident that Meredith was a part of. This is the incident, basically. And all the other, and Meredith is downplaying what happened. While the others, everyone else's account is that Meredith she crashed out. She crashed out. Anyway. Okay, so then basically the remaining of the episode is all the women recapping this. And this is why, to me, this is a filler. Because the thing is, it is everyone's reaccounts of what happened, but no one actually, we as viewers didn't get to really see what happened because this actually happened during the flight and stuff, and they're in first class. And, oh, I forgot to mention, Bronwyn made the wise decision, not knowing it was a wise decision, because she did her rearranging of the trip and didn't fly with them out. She had to change her flight back. So she was the only one that didn't fly with them, which was probably for the best because she had nothing to do with any of this. So there's that. I forgot to mention that. And so we see a montage and Mary is recapping Bronwyn what happened because Mary was on the flight and she was like, yeah, Meredith literally crashed out. She like lost her stuff and was just pretty much, you know, berating like Brittany the whole entire flight back. And side note, for those who don't remember, I don't think it was a direct flight, but maybe it was a direct flight back. I don't know, but it's a long flight either way because they're coming from the Caribbean all the way to like Salt Lake City, Utah. So you can imagine how long that flight was. At least over 5 hours, at least. So keep that in mind. Anyway. And so Whitney is recapping this with her husband, Justin. But Whitney's account of this is that Lisa was egging Meredith on and basically was her hype man. Keep that in mind, because remember how I said at the beginning of the episode how Meredith and Lisa were talking about Brittany together. So I'll be honest with you. I'm going to keep it right. I'm going to keep it cute. I believe Whitney's account of this because she's not the only one that says that. And we saw evidence earlier on the episode of that being a thing. Because I fully believe they will hype each other up. Anyway, Lisa recaps with John, but she totally omits her involvement in it. Because are we surprised Lisa would do that? No. Okay. And that's like a little bit of the Housewives montage. And now we actually get to an actual scene here where we see that Heather meets with Brittany, and she's checking in on Brittany. And Brittany, I feel so bad. And I don't think Brittany was acting here. Brittany truly feels humiliated. Like, she feels like this was like a humiliation ritual, and like she just feels really bad. And Heather, she was like, yeah, I saw the whole thing. Like, and this is what throws me off by Heather, because I don't know what to believe. Because she says she took a nap, she says she slept, and then she saw the whole thing. So which one is it? I think because everyone's kind of recounting the story kind of similar, minus Lisa and Meredith. I think Meredith and them were so loud that I think that she actually heard everything. She didn't see everything. Because I don't know, if someone's yelling and stuff like that, how would you be able to like sleep? But at the same time, Meredith brought in this point that if she was really so loud and belligerent, wouldn't like, you know, the U.S. Marshal get her off the flight and like escort her out? So I don't think she was belligerent. I think she was being loud. And those people in the first class probably know that they're housewives. So I don't know. And I feel like in first class you might be able to get away with more stuff, a little bit more stuff than you would in like coach. Anyway, so, but what was I going to say here? Brittany's not doing well. She's distraught, and she basically says that both Lisa and Meredith were both bullying her. And it actually hurt her more that Lisa joined in on it. And we see Lisa doesn't know how, she doesn't have a volume button. She like is either like, I'm Lisa Barlow, or she's like, how dare you? Like she yells. She yells when it comes to almost anything and everything. And so Lisa, according to her, was like yelling about giving her phone, basically like to prove that this TikTok really exists. And then I guess she was also yelling at Whitney to do the same thing. And according to like her, she's like, you're in trouble. Like, you're in trouble. You really effed up now. Saying all that to like Brittany, while Meredith the whole entire time is pretty much yelling about Brittany. Because I think she was yelling about Brittany. I don't think she was yelling at Brittany. I think she was yelling about Brittany. But I think she was doing what she basically did at the breakfast. But like she continued it. Can you imagine if someone doing that to you in an enclosed space like that for like 5 hours? So even if you don't think you're being loud, that's a lot for 5 hours in an enclosed space. So I don't think like she was yelling loud enough where like the marshals would get involved, but she was doing enough where Brittany clearly understood and heard everything that was being said. So, and you know what? Let's get right to Meredith. Meredith's excuse is some bullshit. I don't believe anything Meredith is saying. Meredith's story is completely different than everyone else's, but like she's an attorney and she's trying to attorney herself in this situation and trying to like not say. She basically said, according to her, she basically said everything that she said to Brittany to her face, to Lisa, as if that's okay. And this is when Mary and her were talking, and Mary's like, girl, that's not okay. You were unhinged. Basically, and that's the wording that all the women are saying, that she was unhinged. I'm saying crashing out because I think she crashed out. Because I like saying crashed out versus unhinged. That's just like not my term. I don't say unhinged. I say crashed out. But same thing. But basically, yeah, no one. Meredith is the only one with this version of the story. The only one. Even Lisa's version of the story, she blames Meredith. Anyway, moving on. So we do get a little bit of a breather in this, thank God, because I don't want to just talk about the same thing over and over again this episode. Brittany and Bronwyn, Whitney and Bronwyn talk. They get lunch together, and they do talk about the situation a little bit. And Whitney's account pretty much matches Mary's account of what happened, because we find out, we already saw that Bronwyn already talked to Mary about it, and Mary basically explained everything that happened to Bronwyn, and Bronwyn was just like, I want to hear your side of what happened. And they basically are on the same, they're on the same page. Like, the story has not really changed with anyone other than Lisa and Meredith. Their version of the story is completely different than what happened. And so basically, Bronwyn uses this opportunity to say, well, I guess both Meredith and Todd need to get lessons on how to behave, have proper etiquette during a flight. And we get a bombshell that came out via Twitter that Todd was allegedly cheating on Bronwyn by the way of looking at other women on his phone. And someone caught it, and it made it to the media. And Bronwyn was so upset that Todd had another business trip, and she's like, yeah, you should probably go ahead and get on that business trip right now. She was not okay with it. And then we find out from Bronwyn, this was a pretty spicy thing that I was not expecting. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Bronwyn, it was not really mad about the act. She wasn't mad at the fact that he did this. She was more upset that he didn't communicate that this is what he wanted to do. And so she basically says that her and Todd need to come up with an agreement of some sort, where if they're feeling froggy and they want to venture off and see others, as long as she's picking, she's okay. Not really opening up according to both Bronwyn and Whitney, this is not really technically opening up the marriage, because they don't want to go on a free-for-all. This is a whole entire thing. But there just needs to be a communication understanding that stepping out is not stepping out if it's communicated clearly. Let's be at least on the same page if we're going to do that. Bronwyn basically said, I would just love it if Lisa says these things about me, that Todd's doing this. She's like, yeah, I know, because I picked the woman. And I'm like, Bronwyn, I'm going to hold you. I don't believe this from Bronwyn. I think Bronwyn isn't really about that life. When Whitney opened up back, she was like, yeah, me and Justin, we tried that out for a little bit, but we're not really about that open life. We were never open. That's not what we were. But we have had some agreements before. And a lot of people in my friend circle have these agreements. Not that this is what we do now. We're not swingers. Because it doesn't seem like they're being, because I thought Whitney was a swinger, but I guess they're not. But she's like, we had an agreement that this is what we will do here and there. But, we kind of put a pause on it, for the most part. But, once the kids are out and they're grown, child, we might be open, all the way open. That's what, Whitney ended up saying at the very end. And I think Bronwyn felt comfortable, saying her thoughts. Because I think what Bronwyn's going through right now is she's very insecure when it comes to Todd. She always has been. That seems very clear to me. And I'll be honest with you, even with this conversation, I do not see Todd and Bronwyn lasting. Because I think both of them are fighting for control. That's what I think this is. I don't think it has anything to do with cheating or anything like that. Because I think Bronwyn saying that she will be okay as long as it's being communicated, that is her having control. And Todd wants to do whatever he wants because of control. So I think what the real thing is not the communication problem. It's the control thing. It's a total control thing. So I don't really see it. And I feel like you have to, and she's basically stated, oh man, my light. My light went out. My bad. And we back. My bad. Sorry guys, I'm leaving it in. But like, I think that this is totally a control thing. And I don't think but both Bronwyn and Whitney, they both were like, we're both a certain age group. Both our husbands are older. So it's only natural. I think that is more of Whitney's thing, actually. And I can see that with Bronwyn a little bit too. She probably wants something a little bit younger, you know? But I don't know. I guess for me, Bronwyn doesn't give me as sexually free as a Whitney does. That doesn't mean that's not true. But I think from Whitney, she knows what she wants and what she likes. I think with Bronwyn, it's more of trying to regain control and also a bit of the curiosity. A little bit of 1A, 1B. Let me know what y'all think. But I'll be honest with you, I did actually enjoy this conversation, which is why I'm spending so much time with this, because it's definitely a millennial thing. I think us millennials were kind of the ones that kind of started this talk where we like, you know what? Not everyone has to have the traditional relationship. And honestly, I feel like these type of things have always existed, but there are just always agreements behind, you know, whatever you and your partner decide to do, who cares? You know? I feel like whoever I end up being with long term, we might have an agreement too. I don't know. But in the meantime, between time, I'm going to stay single. Anyway, moving on. So then the other break that we got from this is we actually then saw that Angie is talking to her daughter, Electra, and I'm going to like wrap this up kind of quickly. Angie is really trying to push Electra embracing her Greek heritage. Electra is being straight up a teenager at this point. So we see at the very end that she's starting to crack a little bit, but I think she's saying that to like really get her mom to leave her alone. But I think later on she will appreciate it. I just think Electra being the teenager right now, she don't want to hear none of this right now. That's all it is. It's Electra being a teenager. And Angie, I hope you realize that's all it is. That she is really being a teenager and being a ridiculous teenager at that. Because Electra's interest right now, she just only cares about the horseback riding and basically being an equestrian. She's Greek, but she also has other parts of her that she wants to embrace as well. And I wish, one thing I will say about Angie is she did mention something that I wish she would have expounded on more. Because, I mean, I would think maybe her knowing Mary, she could maybe expound on that a little bit more. About how some people would love to know their heritage all the way through and through. And the reason why I'm saying maybe, you know, with her friendship with Mary, she could have maybe expounded on that more. But I don't know if her and Mary have ever had that conversation. But like, you know, most Black Americans, we don't have our full heritage. And I always have been slightly envious of, you know, my friends who they know where their family crest is located in like Ireland. Like that to me is so dope and so cool. I am trying to find it, but like to be able to know what your heritage is from the beginning. Even honestly, some of my heritage, because I don't know if y'all know this, but like, I'm like, I know Black people say it all the time, but like, I am partly Native American too. My grandfather, so my mom's dad, was born on an Indian reservation in Mississippi, but like, he lied to us for years. We thought he was half black and half white forever. Like, he was passing, straight up passing. And no faults to him. The times were the times, okay? And sometimes you had to do what you had to do to get through it. Let's just put it that way. So no judgment with that, but like, it was a different time. Anyway, because my grandfather ended up being really successful in the military, and I feel like if he would have like really said who he, what he had background wise, that wouldn't have happened. So we'll just leave it there. But I say all that to say, I still to this day don't even know what tribe or any of that. Because my mom didn't even find out until I was in 6th grade. That's how much he kept that to the chest. And I've always wanted to know more, but I don't know how I would find that out. Because I'm not even that close to like my grandfather's side of the family like that, where I would find anything else out. And he's no longer with us. So, Electra, when you get older, you're going to appreciate this. Angie's 1,000% right. You are going to appreciate it because there's so many people in this country of the United States of these Americas that can't trace their roots like that. And I would love to be able to do that. Just saying. So this was a touching scene. But anyway, moving on. And just like that, we're back with the mess. So Heather is then at the coffee shop waiting. She ends up waiting over an hour for Lisa. And Heather is going about this way wrong when it comes to Lisa. She kind of just always just goes right to accusing her of doing some stuff. But this time around, I think it actually is warranted because Heather was like, I literally saw this. Like, I saw this. Like, and both, I will say this, and I'm going to kind of combine it because, again, I mentioned Mary and Meredith had a similar talk at the very end. And both Mary and Heather's standpoint is like, we saw it. We heard it. You were loud. You're being rude. But I will notice this with Mary. Mary doesn't mention Lisa and her involvement one time. But then again, I'm not surprised by that either because Mary doesn't really fool with Lisa. So I don't think she cares. I think the reason why Mary, from her standpoint, approached Meredith is she was actually truly checking in on Meredith to find out if she's okay. Because it's coming off as like allegedly that, and my light went out yet again. It's coming off as if like allegedly Meredith was maybe under the influence. And so it just didn't, there we go. That she was under the influence. Because again, it was giving unhinged versus her being mad. And we already know how Mary is. She mentioned earlier in the season, she don't like overly chaotic behavior, not having control of your emotions. Which I get that. That's actually a very Libra thing. Libras, we don't like that. Like, Libra moon over here. And so I'm kind of the same way. And I get mad at myself anytime I become unhinged because I'm like, wait, someone just took me out of my character. I don't like that. So Mary's kind of on that kind of time too. So Mary came to Meredith at a place of concern. Whereas contrasting, Heather came to Lisa more and more of an accusatory way. And it was not lost on me that I feel like she's accusing Lisa more than she's accusing Meredith. Because we haven't seen Heather talk to Meredith yet. So it's odd. It's odd. So Lisa, of course, doesn't take it well. She flies off the handle. And Heather is. I feel like Heather's done with Lisa this season. I think she's just over her because she was like, you know, if you're gonna be a bitch, f you, da da. Like she ends up cussing her out. Basically, to end the scene, she cusses Lisa out, and Lisa's like, "I'm not going anywhere. No, I'm not going anywhere." It was just like a back and forth. But the whole entire time, Lisa took no accountability for her part in the issue. She was like, "What was I supposed to do? I can't control a grown woman," even though she's the one who's sitting next to Meredith. And she could have kind of tried to reason with her to calm down. According to Lisa, that's what she was doing. But according to everyone else, minus Mary, because Mary's the only one that hasn't mentioned anything about what Lisa's been doing. So that's the thing that isn't lost on me either. But I kind of could believe the other women because of the fact that, oh, and also too, we didn't hear much about Angie. Angie didn't really talk much about this, by the way. So that's another thing that's kind of tricky. But we don't hear. It's almost like it wouldn't be shocking if Lisa was doing that because we saw Lisa do it earlier on in the episode. But it does give me pause that Mary has not mentioned Lisa one time in her reaccounts of what happened. But according to Meredith, which also might check out, maybe where Mary was at, she couldn't hear Lisa. But she could hear Meredith. Because Meredith was the louder one, it sounds like, from what happened. So Meredith and Mary, they do end up talking it out. And Mary's conclusion is like, I think you should apologize about your part in this. But Mary was like, without any accountability, this group can't really move forward. And really, and this is her talking in the confessional, of course, because Mary's like, no, because Meredith keeps trying to say this maybe last 15 minutes, and Mary's like, no, it was longer than 50. And then she's like, 30 minutes? She's like, no. And Mary kind of has similar account as like what Heather had, is that it sounds like both of them they were going in and out of sleep, but every time they would wake up, like she was still going on. So I don't know, Mary, I'm going to believe what Mary has to say out of everyone. So really the conclusion that I have in this episode, Meredith does have some explaining to do. She definitely was taking things too far. She has been taking things too far. And she really does need to take some accountability for her actions. Whether she does it or not, I guess we'll find out next episode if that happens. And then Lisa, she needs to take accountability for her part as well, because I don't think she was diffusing anything. Because even if she wasn't agging the situation on, she certainly wasn't diffusing it. Because anyone that could have diffused it, it would have definitely been her, because she was sitting next to Meredith. And we already saw earlier on in the episode that she was definitely not diffusing it. She was actually agging her on. So I want to... the only thing that gives me slight pause, though, that I'm not understanding is why didn't Mary mention Lisa's part. But I guess we'll find out next episode. But anyway, that does pretty much conclude this review. It's probably went longer than I thought. But anyway... please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and I will see you next time. And that's Whisper. Bye.